welcome everyone. I will call the meeting to order at 4:01, La Mesa Community Police Oversight Board. I am Janet Castaños, Chair, with Patricia Dillard, Vice Chair, and I will let Stacy take attendance.
All right, calling roll.
Yeah.
Board Member Walker.
He was right
I
there.
believe
He was there. Second ago. Come back.
Board Member McWilliams. Board Member Johnson.
Here.
Board Member Fuentes.
Here.
Board Member Duff.
Here.
Board Member Dement.
Here.
Board Member Darby.
Here.
Board Member Blackman. Vice Chair Dillard
Here.
and Chair Castaños.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. So let us begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Bob, can you lead?
Sure.
You're always good at that.
Sure.
Yes.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none. Do we have any public comments for items that are not on the agenda? Stacy?
We do not have any public comments at this moment, and we do not have any e-comments.
Okay, great, thank you. Any conflict disclosures from anyone on the board? Hearing none, we'll move right into current business. First item 5.1 on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the Community Police Oversight Board. There are two meetings for April and May, and if we could look at the April 20th meeting first, any additions, deletions, corrections? We didn't get a copy, but
They were included in
In the
the packet,
Yeah, you're right.
so
Which packet?
the agenda packet that was submitted.
Yeah, and then email.
Email? Okay, I missed that. My
Okay,
apologies.
I'll-
Please
I'm
forgive
sure
me.
you get it.
Yeah. And then if there are no changes or additions to the April 20th minutes, if we could look at May 18th. Were there any, and I do want to say thank you, Stacy, you do a great job with the minutes.
Yes.
And one of the items I noticed was the quarterly report that you mentioned in the May meeting that we reviewed, and we said we would send it to City Council, and I spoke to Carlo Tomaino about that, and he said it will go to City Council when we present our biannual report. So probably September, it'll probably come in with the first two quarterly reports. They're still working on the logistics of that, trying to figure out what our actual bylaws or I guess
The
it's
ordinance.
procedure ordinance actually says, okay. And also, I just want to say there were a lot of really good ideas mentioned by Andy Trimlett, who called in. So thank you, Stacy, for mentioning those, because we don't want to miss them as we do our ad hoc committee reports. Anything else about the minutes or changes or corrections? All right, do we have a motion to approve? We can do both of them together.
I move the approval of the minutes for both April and May 2022. I'll second that.
And Bob, Larry and Bob. Okay, thank you. So Stacy, I will let you take roll for votes.
Board Member Johnson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Fuentes, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Duff, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Dement, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Darby, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Vice Chair Dillard, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Chair Castaños, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. So the next item, 5.2 on the agenda, are the La Mesa Police Department updates. We have Chief Sweeney with us, who will give us.
Thank you, Chair.
good to see everybody, as always. Just a couple of things that I wanted to share. We just recently completed our Youth Leadership Academy at the police department. We had, I believe it was 12 students that came in and spent a week with us. And I wanted to highlight one student that came in. Janet and I went to Helix High School, and we had good conversations with the kids about school to prison pipeline, how things are changing and how we can work with them. It was just a very active and involved conversation that we had. But out of that, we did have one female student that came to the Youth Leadership Academy, and it really just touched my heart. Afterwards, she came up to me and she says, "Chief, after you guys came, I decided that I wanted to come to the Youth Leadership Academy. So thank you." So it was a great event. Good to be able to reach out to the youth, especially for Helix High School. So we were excited to do that, and we graduated them Friday night. It was just a really good time. The second thing was we obviously every year in October we've done the breast cancer awareness patch that we have done. This year we will be marching in the San Diego Pride Parade as we've done for the last several years. This year we designed a patch. Our LGBTQ liaison, Katie Lynch, she designed the patch. So our officers will be wearing this in the parade. So we're excited to be part of that. Hopefully it's not too hot of a day or raining, because we've experienced both, but still a good event, and we're excited to support
Did you
that.
say rain and this is San Diego?
It did, it rained one year, yes, a lot. But that completes the updates right now.
Right. Any follow-up questions for Chief Sweeney? I just want to say that thank you for breast cancer awareness, and that is a patch for us. Oh,
Yeah, we
Really
did a
appreciate
patch for breast cancer awareness. We did a patch for Pride. And my hope next year is that we do an autism
wow,
awareness patch.
love it. That's so great.
This is appropriate time to ask questions of work pertinent to the department.
Yes.
Okay. Under the circumstances of the shootings that have happened at several of the schools, and the seemingly lack of knowledge that some of the officers had in some of the schools that took place, I wonder if we have training of our officers so that they know the rooms of most of the schools,
Yeah.
and being able to go through a mock-up on that.
Yeah, we do that. We have not done Helix High School in a while,
Okay.
but we have mock-ups of all the schools here as far as door safety, you know, where how to get in. So the officers have been trained on that. We're going to continue. I think it's important to know that, you know, that was a tragic event, absolutely tragic event that happened in Texas. We can all agree to that. But I will say, as the chief of police, is that's not how we train for active shooter.
Yeah.
And we all know that once we take the oath, and if we have an active shooter, that we're going in.
Yes.
And it's, you know, that's why we take the oath. I mean, unfortunately, officers die in that line of duty, but I'd rather have that than a kid. So to answer your question, yes, we do that training. We'll continue to do that training to make sure that all of our officers know exactly what to do. It's literally, there's no command post when it comes to active shooter. It's whoever the first officer is, they grab the next officer and they go. And if there's no next officer, they go themselves.
Seemingly, the officers that arrived at the scene in Texas did not know the school.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to happen here. I don't want anything to happen here.
Absolutely agree.
I don't want them to not know.
Yeah, we encourage our officers to get out there. And we were actually out at Lemon Avenue Elementary not too long ago. We did 2 COCOs with a cop there.
Okay.
So that's another good opportunity to walk the schools for the officers and also get used to, not used to, but get to know the kids and get to know the teachers there.
I believe that was Christian DeMint's son who initiated
was.
Coco with the cops.
It was.
That's so great.
Follow-up question. Is there any circumstance where you wouldn't go in immediately and wait for, let's say, protective equipment or something like that?
No, I mean, we've learned with active shooters that you can't wait. Unfortunately, you know, that all changed in 1984, I believe it was. It's the McDonald's massacre in San Ysidro. That really changed the way that law enforcement reacts to active shooters. And it's, only been emphasized over the years with how quickly these things evolve. And the faster that we can get in and quote unquote, eliminate the threat, that saves lives. So, unless we can't get in, we're going to continue to try and get in, but we're going.
And I had a follow-up question as well. Chief Sweeney, you're doing the quarterly visits to the different areas in La Mesa still? Is that still happening where you visit to the schools?
You mean it's community conversations?
Yeah, the community conversations. Yeah, I think you have 4.
Yeah, great question.
Okay,
We had the community conversations in July of last year, at the end of July into August,
okay.
and we're going to do that again this year.
Okay, because I was going to ask you, do you think it would be a good idea to share that information with the community, especially the schools, when you're already meeting with the parents to talk about that procedure, just so we know? Just so more of the, especially parents, know what the procedure is going to be, because I think that whole incident in Texas was all about getting all kinds of different information about what was done. And some of the things that came out were really, really horrifying, in my opinion. Hearing about some police officers going in to just grab their own children, other people being prevented from going in and, was almost assaulted by other police officers if they didn't back up, and, just a lot of chaos. And
That's the thing is active shooter training and response is unfortunately controlled chaos. Because we all know what we need to do. And you're absolutely right. I received many phone calls and many emails after that event, basically asking for reassurances from the Mesa Police Department. And I'm very upfront and honest. This is how we train. And, our officers understand that. They understand the risk. But the lives of those kids are the most important thing.
yeah, I just brought that up because I know as a parent, it would be nice to, like if I came to one of those meetings and you brought it up and you talked about as much as you can about the procedure of the police department, that would be helpful for, the community to know what the process is in La Mesa.
Absolutely. That's a great suggestion. And we can add that into the conversations.
Yeah, that would be that would be a specific theme item in and of itself. that
Absolutely.
People will really be interested in, I
Right.
think.
Yeah, because a lot, unfortunately, a lot of these incidents happen at schools.
Place it's supposed to be the safest
It's
place.
supposed to be the safest place. Yeah.
So, and another thing, since we're on community conversations, what would you think about doing it once a month instead of every week for 4 weeks? Just because each one is gonna have a theme, and people might want to attend every one. Maybe once a month might be more realistic for people.
I think, I don't think that's not a bad idea for the ones that we're talking about that are themed, as far as the homeless information, the mobile
Yeah.
crisis response team, and the mental health response that we're doing, and then the active shooter type training. We can absolutely do that, but I still want to get out and have a chat with the chief.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
those will be open dialogue, and I'll probably have those either once a week or once every 2 weeks, just like we did when I was promoted to chief. And just a reminder that my door is always open. And anybody from the community. As a matter of fact, I spoke to somebody last night after the city council meeting, just to reiterate, they wanted to make an appointment. I said, well, why make an appointment? Let's go talk. And that's the way I want the community to understand the access to me and the department, is that we can talk at any time. But the community conversations, I think we called them last year.
Mhm.
I may change that up to a chat with a chief,
Oh, that's.
and then work with the Veterans Commission to plan those different events so that there's multiple pieces of information that are getting out there. But as far as mine, I want feedback on how we're doing, and also give feedback to the community on what we've been doing.
Chief chat.
Chief chat. Yeah.
Have you set the dates yet?
We have not. But it'll probably, like I said, it'll probably be towards the end of July, early August.
So did you say you're gonna work through community relations? Are you on?
Community relations,
No, you're on Parks and Rec. Yeah. Okay, so Community Relations and Veterans Commission. And can we work, or do you want us to focus on the themed ones and they can focus on the chats with the chief or chief chat?
Well, I think we can do both. We did I'm getting confused now. We did the community conversations with the CPOB, and I thought that went over very well.
Yeah.
And, it's part of my 6-step action plan is number one is working with the CPOB.
Yeah.
The chat that people have with me, I think is important for you to hear too. Because then you may be able to add some perspective to what we've been doing and how we've been working together in the last year. That maybe people don't know. So I think there's an opportunity for both of us to get the information out there, if you're open to that. And that way we can just kind of split it. And if it goes slighted one way where, people want to ask me a bunch of questions, that's fine. And we can still, have people there just in case there's questions about the CPOB and the great work you're doing.
Yeah. And would it be okay if we ran our survey again? Because we had the baseline data from last year and we'd like to see, is there improvement? What do we still need to work on? And that would be great if we could hand out the surveys at, the beginning or.
Obviously my recommendation is that we wait for a 2-year period.
Well, I'd like to do it ideally, I'd like to see the 3rd year. So maybe this is too soon. You're probably right.
I'm open to it. We can take a look at it. I think we've done a lot of hard work together. As I've said before, we just, surveys are difficult.
Yeah.
Because you're not always going to get the same people to fill them out. So you're going to get different opinions,
Yeah.
which may not give you an accurate account of truly, what it looked like last time versus what it looked like this time.
I think we need to add a question. And that would be, have you taken the survey before? And do you see an improvement?
Yeah, but also I think it's indicative of who actually wants to know what's going on with our police department. If you're an actively involved, last year, maybe there were very different people who wanted to ask questions of the police department. And that's indicative of where we are. Do people feel safer, that they don't feel compelled to come and, ask a variety of questions? It would just be interesting to see, what the attitudes in general of people who would attend these types of.
Yeah, I'm completely open to it.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Yeah, and I
See how it
think
works.
San Diego State is interested, and I mentioned at our ad hoc committee and to the chief that the survey wasn't very different than our citywide survey. It really, the answers were pretty much the same. But the only difference was when it was broken down, there were differences between people of color. And so that's kind of, and age, I think was the other thing. So that's something we can look at and see if there's improvement as we go through the years.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah, I think we could even reach out to, Helix High School and work with them to get a survey there.
Yeah,
Because, not every student there lives in the city,
right.
but it's at least a good thing to get a perspective. And I've spoken to Kevin
Oh, Osborne.
Osborne, and, he would like us to start getting a partnership to where, we can come in at lunchtime, just sit down, have chats with the kids.
Yeah.
And then just build that relationship
Yeah.
back up.
Yeah. I think that's great ideas. So, any other questions, Anna?
Going back to the active shooter training, how often do those happen?
The active shooter trainings happen about every year to 2 years, depending on situations. But it's post training that our officers go through. So post is the peace officer standards and training that we're required to check off every year, 2 years, 3 years. There's different levels of that. But as far as the La Mesa Police Department, we don't have a set time that we do it. But right now, our mobile field force has started to do some more training. Our special response team has always done that training for when they need to respond. And we have a new crew of police officers that are coming in. So, our plan is to get them well-versed on that also. Probably within the next 3 months.
And just one more thing, I wanted to ask you, Chief Sweeney, given what's been going on in the nation in regards to the types of guns that are being used to slaughter babies, how do you feel about I know that we had talked about you getting new different types of guns and things that were going to be supplied to the police department. But do you feel like you have the ammunition power, the gun power to, intercept a person who is, slicing people into a half a second a beat? How do you feel about that in regards to being ready?
That's a great question. All of our officers are issued patrol rifles. So the rifles that you're talking about.
Mhm. And what are they called again?
There's a lot of ARs.
They're AR-15.
AR-15s, which are basically military style guns.
They're assault rifles, yes.
They're assault rifles. Do you feel like you're good? You guys are good? Okay.
Yeah, and not every agency issues those to every officer. We are one agency that does.
Okay.
And a case in point, I mean, this all came about, I mean, not to deter from the school shooting because that's horrific. But if you go back to the LA bank robbery, that's really where that came from. is
Yeah,
because-
that's where it started, or where I remember it
Right.
starting.
The police officers were outgunned completely.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I mean, they can be horrific when they're used, for obviously weapons of destruction like that. But, I'm confident that our officers have it. They have the training and, the discipline on how to use those.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a real hot topic at your community conversations.
Sure.
Yeah. So,
I think so.
any other questions for the chief?
Conversation.
Yeah. All right, thank you, everyone. So let's move on to the next item on the agenda, 5.3, formation of a community police oversight board ad hoc committee to explore mediation. We talked about mediation, a proposal for a mediation plan. We talked about that with our meeting with Rick Rasmussen earlier this week, or last week, I guess it was. And we want to develop a draft plan that we can share with the police POA, thank you, Police Officer Association. And so we were talking about the possibility too of who to include. I mean, we'd like 5 of us board members to serve on that. And would it be appropriate to have feedback from La Mesa, some representative from the La Mesa Police Department right there to give us input? It doesn't have to, we can meet with the POA after to get their input, but from the police department separately, do you think that would be an appropriate representative on the ad hoc committee?
Are you asking that should they be members of the ad hoc committee or should we get?
Participate in the ad hoc committee, so they're
They
at
would
the
be
table.
actually at the table, so
Right.
that would be an ad hoc.
Yeah,
committee.
I mean, definitely, we want their input.
What, yes.
So should we just get it up front, or should we wait?
What is-
Development.
What do you think, Chief?
I think you should get it up front, absolutely. And I would even say, the Police Officers Association, and I say that it's a different Police Officers Association these days. We understand that this is part of the ordinance and that this is another benefit to add, or that the officers never had.
Yeah.
So I think it would be beneficial to have an association member on there that can kind of give you that perspective, but I think we're all shooting for the same goal.
We brought this up at the meeting with Rick.
Yeah.
Rick, do you want to respond to that? Because you gave a different response when I suggested that we do that. You gave you put the kibosh on that idea.
No, I don't think I did. I think that came from the chair. I've been very supportive. I think the more partners you have on any collaborative effort, the better the outcome. So I think the chief is right on getting a rank and file member, but I don't know what you're losing by getting the POA buy-in right off the bat, because that should stop conflict when you get your model built. So, no, I think the more voices represented in any ad hoc committee deciding on a significant change like this, the better.
Okay, I move that we,
Okay, yeah,
Just another piece of clarification. I know I've shared this with the chair, but I thought it'd be good for everyone to know too, is that mediation represents a changed working condition for the officers, which means that we'd have to go back and make an adjustment to the MOU, more than likely via a side letter. And so it's really important to get the POA involved early, and get their input, get their buy-in, because it's gonna be something that would later have to go to city council for approval and ratification to the POA as well. So we want to make sure that they're involved.
I move that we establish an ad hoc committee to explore mediation to include 5 members of the CPOB, 2 at-random police officers picked by the chief, and a representative of the POA.
I'll second that.
Did you?
I want to make sure everybody's clear about the ad hoc. Does anybody have any questions about the ad hoc or why we are choosing to explore having mediation? Anyone?
Explain.
Well, I just want to make sure, because this is something that we're adding or we're going to explore in adding. And basically the conversation that we had with Rick was pretty extensive, and I'm sure he's probably way more qualified to talk about mediation. But I think that it's important for us to know all the reasons why we should look into this, investigate this. And there were very few negatives as far as I can recall as to why we shouldn't. So I just want to, if you want, Rick, if you could go over the reasons why we talk so extensively about this and why we feel it's really important, and how it can save a lot of time, not just for the CPA, but also a lot of money as far as the city is concerned. If some of these issues that come up that are not as major, can be resolved without a lot of expense and time on everyone's behalf. So, Rick, if you just want to briefly give some pluses, I think that would be a benefit.
Point of order, there is a motion on the floor.
but we're discussing it, so.
Well, there needs to be a second or it dies for lack of second.
Oh, she said.
did
Oh, I'm
second.
sorry, you're right, you did.
No worries, no worries.
I'm a.
But I just want to make sure everybody's clear, and anyone listening, the public that's listening, why is it that we want to explore this? I think, because I didn't know a whole lot about mediation. I'm not a lawyer, so I would just think that would be a natural thing that we discuss it at least up front, the positives and any negatives that you want to mention, Rick.
Voice,
We can't hear you.
unmute, Rick. Still muted. There you go.
Damn computer. I would also suggest that you add somebody from your IPA on your ad hoc committee, just so you can have the benefit of people that have experienced it, used it, implemented it, and answer general questions. Mediation works really well in that it allows the citizen and the officer to share their mutual views on the incident that the complaint came from. And in most cases, when the two get together in a room and share their thoughts, they walk away with a much better feeling about both point of views. And it does or can be a money saver for the city in that when you go through mediation, you stop the IA investigation. So that's more officers on the street doing what you want. And it gets a resolution immediately from a third party who's not aligned with either side to say, yeah, okay, you didn't do too well today, to whichever party, because I've seen it both ways, where upon review, sometimes it's the officer having a bad day. Sometimes, and I'll use the example of the driver having a bad day. Mediation is not a panacea because serious allegations of misconduct are not suitable for mediation. So the priorities that were established for the IPA to do audits, none of those cases would be suitable for mediation. It's the quality of service type of matters as it relates to the human interaction. For instance, he was grumpy with me, he was snide with me, you know, any of those general quality of service type complaints, that's suitable. But cases involving force or bias or corruption or different levels of treatment, that's not suitable. Those are significant violations and they can't go to mediation. But the experience that I've witnessed and heard about across the country has been predominantly very favorable, both from the citizenry and the officers alike. So I'm a strong supporter of it, but again, like I said the other day when I met with a couple of you, your mediation program needs to fit the needs of your community. Mediation isn't a plug-in or a software download. You guys have got to decide, this is what we want in our program. And then you also have to consider all of the stakeholders' needs when you're putting together your program. And that's why I'm a big believer in having officer presence and the POA's presence, because after all, it's a meet and confer item. And why not get all that done while you're developing it? Rather than develop it, then go to meet and confer, take the suggestions, implement those suggestions after the fact. You're just delaying the inevitable. Whereas if you put it in one spirited ad hoc committee, you might be able to get this done pretty rapidly.
Well, the only objection I have to doing it together with the POA is I really think the POA needs to get input from their members and review it and get that type of in-depth analysis from their members in order to get buy-in or ask questions. And that's not something we could get done in one meeting. So I really would, I mean, I guess it's fine to have a rep from the POA here and could take a final product to them, but it's still going to require, you know, additional meetings. It's not going to be done all at once. And I agree with you, Rick. The research is showing that it can minimize litigation within a city, litigation costs, and most importantly, it improves community relations, which is really what we're looking at, especially with the issues you were addressing earlier. And I think it'd be really important to have Dennis Montejano participate because he's done some research in California with Fresno. And Dennis, I don't know if you want to speak to it, but you sent us a lot of great models that we could use as springboards to develop our own mediation program.
Yeah, thank you. And I apologize for not having my camera on. I'm actually driving from a medical appointment, so you would be looking at me at a really weird angle if it was on. But you know, I just wanted to toss in just a little side note on the mediation is that you're right, I have looked at this extensively, and one of the things the officers have found, and after research, was that they found that they became what they felt were better officers in terms of dealing with the public, because they never really heard from the public side how the way they conducted their business was affecting the public. And so it could be something as simple as a simple traffic stop. The officer says, "Give me your license, registration, and insurance," and the subject says, "Why are you stopping me?" And some officers will say, "Look, I've asked you for that, give me that, and then I'll tell you." And so you're right off the bat starting off with this little bit of a conflict. And when the citizens in mediation are able to tell the officer how that made them feel, what we find is most officers, they don't really want to make people feel bad. They're just trying to do their job, but they don't understand that if they do it a little bit differently, they can have a much better relationship. And so what we found is a lot of officers are able to modify their ability to contact people for the better of the citizens. And so really that's the main goal of the mediation, is to establish that footing where the public and the police work more effectively together and cooperatively. And we've seen that time after time in the programs that we've looked at across the nation.
Thank you, Dennis. So before we vote on this, it'd be great to have the names of those who are interested in participating on this ad hoc committee. And I know Caitlin Tiffany has already said she would like to. She couldn't be here today, but she would like to participate. And I know Leroy mentioned he would like to. So we have those two. Larry, okay.
And also I move to amend the main motion to include a representative of the IPA on the ad hoc committee.
And you're okay with that, Sarah, right? You're okay with him adding the IPA to his motion?
Oh,
Okay, so second now.
Second, yeah.
okay, I'll second. That's fine.
Chair Castanos, we have a public comment.
Okay.
Andy Trimlett, you can unmute yourself and say your comment.
How's it going? So I just want to say I think this is a great initiative. I actually did my internship at the San Diego Mediation Center many years ago, which is now the National Conflict Resolution Center. I definitely recommend you working with them. I actually did mediations in small claims court for that internship. I am in no way qualified to do these mediations, but but I can tell you that it's a really great way to go. It often results in resolutions that are not just acceptable to one side, but acceptable to both sides. I personally conducted mediations where people came to small claims court, ready to throw down with each other, and then walked out, both of them happy. And what's also great about it is it doesn't lock you out of other options. So if you do an arbitration or you go to court, you can't then turn around and do a mediation. But if you do a mediation and one or the other side isn't happy with it, you still have the options to pursue other means. So I think it's a great way to go.
Yeah, thank you. I know Leroy and I both worked with National Conflict Resolution Center, and they do great work. So definitely we'll touch base with them as we craft this document. So far we have Caitlin Tiffany, Leroy Johnson, Larry Darby. Anybody else interested? Anybody from?
I would do that.
Andy? Can we, that's a member of the community. Oh, I'm sorry. Who, did somebody on the board say?
Yeah, member walk up.
Oh, okay, Danny. Thank you. I'm sorry. Danny walk up. And one more. Anybody else? Anna Fuentes. Okay. So we have the 5 CPOB members. The chief will identify the 2 La Mesa Police Department. The POA can determine who their rep would be there. And then the IPA rep, we'd like Dennis or both Dennis and Rick. So I think we're ready to vote. So Stacy.
Board member walk up.
Point of order, what are we voting on?
You're
First, we have to vote on the amendment. You have to
on
pass
the amendment.
the amendment. I amended
Oh, that's right.
the main motion to include a member of the IPA.
Okay,
And then you vote on the main motion as amended if the amendment passes.
Or it can be a friendly amendment. If you do it as a friendly amendment, you don't have to do it as 2 votes.
okay. So let's, I think since Patricia agreed to it.
I did approve that, that amendment.
Okay. So let's go ahead and take a vote on the actual motion.
Board Member Walkup, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member McWilliams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Johnson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Fuentes, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Duff, how do you vote?
No,
Johnson.
Johnson.
Not hearing that well. Bad hearing aids. Yes.
Okay. Board Member Dement, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Darby, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vice Chair Dillard, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chair Costanos, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion carries with all board members voting yes.
Thank you. The last item on the agenda are announcements, and we have a number of them. So I will start with Leroy has an announcement, kind of a summary he'd like to present.
I'd like to, go over the notes for the ad hoc committee that met on community outreach and engagement a few days ago. And so here are the notes for like about 6 items. One of the first things we did was a discussion of the possible formation of a community resource team at the La Mesa PD that will focus on community outreach, recruiting, neighborhood watch, community events, and other things of that type. The second item was an effort to hire a new communications manager for the city of La Mesa is in process and will hopefully be filled soon. Second item, this person will assist the city, La Mesa PD, and the CPLB with their community outreach and social media efforts. The third item, discussion of Chief Sweeney's community conversations and listening sessions, which we had a little discussion about, will include the following themes: addressing homelessness, including home and point-in-time statistics, supporting and assisting with mental health concerns, including the 988 rollout per MCRT, increasing community involvement through the CPOB, commendation and complaint forms, neighborhood watch, and various other outreach efforts. Strengthening youth engagement and outreach, including game changers, Helix High outreach efforts, implicit bias training for officers, and other things of that nature. The fourth item is discussion on gun safety measures in La Mesa. CPOB and La Mesa PD working together to promote gun safety training courses to community members. And the fifth item was all CPOB members are encouraged to participate in ride-alongs, and the contact person is Sergeant Brett Riley at briley@cityoflamesa.us, right? So if anybody would like to sign up, I've been slow moving in my own, so I've sent him an email and maybe have an answer here soon, but I would also want everybody to encourage everybody to do a ride-along. Any questions on anything I've read there?
Oh, yeah, and I think because these are not agenda items that, yeah, we have to announce it, but we can put it on, if people would like, we could put it on the next month's agenda. So we just.
If the ad hoc committee is prepared to provide a full report to the CPOB, we can include this on the next agenda for discussion.
Okay, and then, yes, elaborate a little bit further. So thank you for that.
And then one other announcement is the discussion that we had with the IPA last week regarding the process to obtain copies of prior complaints. There was a sticking point on one particular concern. We've had a lot of residents that have mentioned wanting to see a particular complaint. But unfortunately, because it's already been, processed through the courts and a settlement has been made under the, what's the name of that short, the acronym for I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the acronym,
Oh,
Rick.
Hobart,
Kovar. We cannot provide any copies to the public regarding expired cases. And I don't know if that's the appropriate word to use, but there are cases that have already been, gone through the courts and everything's been settled. So unfortunately, we're not able to do anything in regards to that. And I guess that would be a case by case basis, because it's really, from what I understand, through city manager and I guess the city manager lawyer, there isn't a process that we can provide that type of information going forward. However, thanks to the CPOB and the participation of the police department, I'm happy to announce that that probably won't happen any longer, because there is a 1-year period in which, because we have hired our IPA, that, this process, if there is another incident, unfortunate incident involving an officer, that, everything would be taken care of within the year. They have a deadline of a year, and if they are not capitulating, then our IPA will, at some particular point, feel free to disclose information to the public prior to the year being up. So that's the announcement. I know you can't have any questions. If there are questions, I guess you could add it to the agenda, and the IPA can talk about that further, but
I think right now we're talking about the legal ramifications. So I think we're dealing with it at that end before we bring it to a public
okay.
meeting.
So it's
let's-
just strictly an announcement right now,
Yes.
and that's as much as we can give the public. We are trying, but we're stopped by laws, so.
Thank you for that, Patricia. Larry, you're ready to attend the NAPOL in October or November or something? September. Okay, so that's
It's
coming.
in Fort Worth.
Yeah, so bring back lots of good ideas from
Nobody
that.
else is gonna go.
I don't know. I'm still afraid to travel, but maybe we could get some braves. I'm glad you're brave. But the other thing I wanted to mention is Dennis Montejano sent me a couple of days ago some information from Brady and Giglio, information regarding the credibility of witnesses that came from NACOL. It was actually a Bureau of Justice Assistance law enforcement knowledge lab. It was a great handout that I would like to share with all of you. Just interesting information. It really does reinforce the wonderful work our police department's doing. So pat on the back for that. But, really making sure that the reporting that officers do is trustworthy. And, we're seeing that in our city for sure. Law enforcement knowledge. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Is there any?
Couple of staff announcements. So just real quick, we renewed our membership to NACOL this last month. So the CPOB has now been a member of NACOL for a year. And we're in our first month of our second year of membership. So all the benefits of NACOL membership remain. That's been renewed. And just go ahead.
What is the official name
National.
in your membership name at NACO?
City.
Community Police,
or-
Community Police Oversight Board, the La Mesa Community Police Oversight Board. Yeah, that's our official membership name. Lastly, we are planning to have our next meeting in the Police Department Community Room. The community room has recently gone a technology upgrade. We do want to test that system before. So in the next couple of weeks, I'll be testing the system. If everything works out and checks out, I will send out a map to everybody that shows where that room is. I have a nice aerial map. If you're not familiar with where the PD community room is, this map will take you right there. It's basically a door off to the left when you walk up to the PD main entrance. You wouldn't go in that entrance, you would veer to the left. There's a door off to the side, and that gets you in the PD community room. But the map I'll send out will aid you in finding it, providing the technology test goes as planned. But I will keep the whole board apprised of that. So the next meeting, we're not planning to be in here.
Okay. And Anna, you have,
Can we ask any questions to the IPA right now? No.
you're gonna ask a question about something that was reported?
No, just a general question.
Oh, yeah.
About investigations. I know we requested those. I mean, when are we gonna see one?
Right, we're working with the CPOB lawyers, the city lawyers, there's some discussion about that, so we really can't announce anything at this point, but yeah, we are asking, so thank you for that. And I did have a question for our assistant city manager, the community relations manager position, is that still, are you still accepting applications, or where is that in the process?
Is that the communications manager?
Communications manager?
So
Yeah.
that has not been advertised yet because we have a number of other city recruitments that are ahead of the
Oh.
communications manager, but we expect that recruitment will be out perhaps as early as next month.
Mm.
And we'll certainly be accepting applications. We hope to get a good group, and then we'll be making a selection sometime in the near future after that.
So that will take several months.
Mhm.
Okay, because a lot of the things we talked about with community outreach required our community outreach. So,
We can talk offline. We have the ability to do some, probably what you'd like to do now through our existing staff resources. The communications manager is a significant augment to what we're able to do, but we're happy to help with the staff that we have.
okay, perfect.
I forgot, there's one more announcement that I think we should probably talk about just briefly is another part of the meeting with the IPA was we were discussing incidents last year versus incidents this year. And I know we haven't finished this year, we could have the numbers, but if I'm correct, Rick, you told us there were 5 incidents last year. Is that right? And this year, there is 0 to date. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because, well, first of all, that's good news. Almost half the year has gone by and we haven't had any officer incidents. So I think that is number one, it's a credit to the CPOB in the work that we have done in, trying to, rein in the issues that the residents of La Mesa were concerned about. And number two, working closely with the police department and those, whatever changes needed to be implemented were done so. And everyone is in line. And I'm not saying that there's not going to be any incidents for the rest of the year, but I think that should give us some credit. Hiring the IPA, having the CPOB, and having having a working relationship with the police department has been a good thing for the residents of La Mesa.
And I must say that the whole atmosphere of our police department really starts with our top leadership, and it's
right.
Amazing. So I do want to say that it's great to work with them.
So kudos to everybody.
So if there are no
Janet,
other
could I just chime in? I
Yes.
wanted to just confirm whether when Patricia said incidents, whether that refers to complaints overall. So meaning that the CPOB and LMPD have not received.
Yes, to be clear, yes. I wasn't talking about any shootouts or anything like that.
All right, any other? Yeah. All right, so our next meeting is July 20th, and it will be in the La Mesa PD community room.
Yeah, more information to come via email on that, so stay tuned.
4:56, beat the hour.
Thank you.